So good afternoon. All that's left between coffee and between you and coffee is me. So I hope you'll enjoy what I'm going to be talking about in the upcoming 25 minutes. I always like to start off with showing you my kids. So when I won the award, my kids were happy to pose with the award that I won. And I created this picture on an app on my phone, and then I uploaded it to Instagram. And then I uploaded that automatically to Facebook as well, and I tweeted it out as well. So actually, my kids are a big reason of why I am active on social media. So when my son, for example, when he wins Player of the Week in his football team, I put it on social media. I put it on Facebook. The reason I do that is, well, because I'm proud of my kids as well, but another big reason are these two people. These people are the aunt and uncle of my wife, and those people live in San Jose in the US. Now, my three kids, they're 6, 8, and 10 years old, although the youngest actually thinks she's 16, but that's a different story. But when my son was born, almost 10 years ago, what we did, and some of you might not even remember this, but we took pictures of our son. Then we went to this store in our village, and we handed in a little roll which came out of the camera. And then we gave that to that person in the store. And then they developed pictures. So after about a week, we got pictures back. And then we put them in an envelope. And we put them, we wrote a nice letter with it. And then we sent them to these two people in the US so that they could see how our kids grew up. Now, we have Facebook. So when I put up these pictures of my son or my daughters, then they will be the persons who first like that picture. Because now they have insights into my life, into our lives, and how the kids grow up. It's made our world a lot smaller, and I think we can all relate to that. I don't just do personal stuff on Facebook. I do work-related stuff as well. I share updates that I see. Every day I start my day with reading a lot of articles and then sharing what I think is important for my audience to read. I do read very much. So if you look at my tweet deck, this is my tweet deck. That's just a part of my tweet deck. My tweet deck is very long. I do all sorts of different searches on social media just to understand what are people talking about. What is it that they're interested in? What is hot in the industry? The thing is, even though I am very active on social media and I read a lot, I miss a lot as well. I miss this, an update of my brother-in-law going to Berlin. I also missed an update of a good friend of mine, Gianluca, about something that he wrote on Mars. I missed that. What I did see, however, was an update of one of the daughters, actually, of the two people you just saw, about how to wear a swim cap. And actually, this one I actually shared because, yeah, well, it was slightly useful. Useful, right? I especially like the kick afterwards, like kicking him in the water. So the thing is, we see a lot of stuff on the web. We see a lot of stuff on social media, but we're not seeing everything. And why is that? It is because we have a problem. And the problem is that we're all looking for fans, but actually, the real fans are us. We are the ones trying to reach out to everybody out there and trying to get them to read our stuff, to watch our videos, and to like whatever we put online. So we're the ones that are the fans. It's not the fans that we are after that are the real fans. We are the real fans. And we have to keep that in mind because we are actually the ones that are looking for the attention of many people, but actually, that group possibly is smaller than the group that is also trying to get the attention. Now, the problem with attention as well is that our attention is less than that of a goldfish. We do not pay attention anymore. So anytime you see something interesting, your attention drifts away. Oh, sorry. So what do we do with that? We try to get attention. We dress up the goldfish. So we do funny things that make people pay attention, that you want to watch. So we set up billboards, crazy billboards. I'm really afraid of the people driving by this billboard, to be honest. But what we also do is we create what John was talking about, really nice billboards from Google that are interactive. That's really nice, and that actually makes sense. We also try this kind of stuff, where you can see, wow, moving billboards. It actually works. No, it doesn't. Take a good look. Nobody's paying attention. It's a fantastic app, but nobody's watching. The problem with that is that our focus is wrong. We look at the wrong things. Our timing is completely off. What we as marketers do most of the time, and John had a fantastic looking consumer journey funnel. I just drew this. But this is what we're doing. We're trying to focus on the last part of the funnel. We're trying to make people buy. And for that, we're trying to get in their research phase, get them while they're looking for that watch, get them while they're looking for that slide that James was talking about. That's when we want to get them. However, that first part is important as well. Because if you pay attention to only the last two parts, behind your back, something else is going on. And you have to keep that attention. You have to know that people make decisions not in the end, but actually their decision starts already in the beginning. So how are we going to solve that? How are we going to make sure that we get the attention of the people that we want the attention from at the right time, at the right place? Relevance. Relevance is hugely important. I've been showing this picture, I'm not kidding, for 10 years, and still people don't get it. Still, people are trying to send out their own message. What they are interested in is a completely different story from what you have to say. Basically, what you want to say, they don't give a shit about that. What they want is for you to give an answer to a problem they are having. They want that, James wanted to find that slide. The solution should have been there. There should have been an answer. Maybe, I don't know, some sort of Bing knowledge graph can give that answer. It doesn't exist. Don't bother searching. That would have been useful. The problem is that we're trying to just get a shitload of content out there, and I still get people coming up to me saying, we have a new website, can you look at it, and can you give some comments? And then seriously, last year, I went to this Dutch museum. Don't tell anybody about this, don't tweet this, because it's, so I went to the museum and said, okay, so we sat down and we had a discussion about the new website. And then they said, yeah, we want to have like a meeting with everybody involved so that we know where to start and everybody has their ideas. So let's do kind of like a brainstorm kind of thing at the start. I was like, yeah, sure, okay, that's fine. So we make a meeting appointment and I go to the museum. I walk in and I'm directed into a room which is twice the size of this. I was like, what am I doing here? They said, well, everybody has to have their say. So they brought in 150 people who each had to have a say about the website. And everybody wanted their own homepage on the website because everybody said, what I have to talk about is important. It's not. What's important is what people want to get on your website or want to get when they see your updates on social media, any digital platform for that matter. So if you want to have success in search or in social or in the combination or in digital in general, you have to be relevant and you have to know how to communicate with your audience and you have to understand your audience. You have to get yourselves into the shoes of your audience because only if you've walked on high heels like that, you'll know how much pain the women are in when they're actually walking in those shoes. You can think about it, you can think, well, probably hurts. No, you can only try if you really step into the shoes of your audience. Now, I introduced you to my kids earlier on. I'd like to introduce you to somebody else. If you look up, then you're all looking at the wrong place because she's up here. This is my grandma. My grandma was 92 when she died. She died over a decade ago. But my grandma was actually the first one that taught me about marketing, without her knowing what marketing actually was. She didn't even know the word marketing, but she taught me the most valuable lessons that I'm still using. Now, my grandmother, she had 11 grandchildren. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I had 2 grandmothers. Most people do. My other grandma was the type of grandma that when you would visit, she would start nagging about the weather being either too hot or too cold, or the neighbors were too noisy, the food was cold, whatever. I can tell you, as a 16, 17-year-old boy, you don't really want to go there. And you don't really want to share anything as well. But my grandmother, this one, she was different. She figured, okay, I want to gain the trust of my grandchildren, and I want to gain that trust because I want them to come to me with every problem they have, whether it's about school or whatever problem, I want them to come to me. Now, a 16, 17-year-old doesn't automatically go to his grandma to talk about his problems. So she figured I have to get in touch with him first. So in my case, she started researching all the grandchildren and started looking at what is it that they're actually doing, what is it that they like. Now, in my case, it was pretty easy. I'm a football fan. I like Ajax. I lived in Amsterdam at the time. I visited games. So it was quite obvious that she needed to understand Ajax, at least football. Now, football fans here will know this. John, you will know this as well. If somebody comes up to you, if you have a passion, and somebody comes up to you and start talking about that passion, your automatic response will be, if you realize this person doesn't really know about my passion, your automatic response will be, yeah, it's nice. So when my sisters, for example, when they start talking about football, I just okay. Because they asked the most stupid questions. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to talk with you about football just because you think that will be nice and that we can actually bond or something. No, we don't do that. You only bond if somebody actually understands your passion. So the first time my grandmother started talking about football, that was my first response, like, oh, okay, she's going to try and be nice and talk about football. And then I started to listen. I was like, wait a second, she actually knows what she's talking about. She knew who had played. She knew the players. She knew the coach. She knew what the coach had said after the game. She actually understood offside. I was like, oh, wow, that's nice. And I started chatting with her about football, and I even got that far. At one point, I remember being at her house, and I cycled to her house to have dinner, and I realized, oh my God, Ajax is playing tonight. I'm not going to be able to see that game, so I'll watch the highlights when I get back. And I'm having dinner with my grandma. After dinner, we sit down for a cup of coffee, and she had this big brown chair, and she sat down on the chair, and all of a sudden, she started moving around. It was going like that, and I was like, oh my God, she's having a heart attack. So, Grandma, you're right. She said, yeah, no, I'm fine. But do you mind if I put on the game? Because I really want to see it. I was like, oh, okay. But at that point, she had embraced my passion so much that she started loving it herself. The thing is, however, from that time on, from the time I understood that my grandmother knew about football, I started to trust her on all other elements as well. So I came to my grandma to talk about girls, to talk about, I don't know, school results, whatever. She gained my trust by first making a move towards me. And that's what marketers need to do as well. Marketers these days are too much still trying to get their own message across, trying to convince us. But if you want the trust of your audience, you first need to step towards them. You really need to understand your target audience, not just understand that they like football, but understand what football actually is. So the question you have to ask yourself is, who really is your audience? Who are they? And there's one thing you need to remember really, really well. There is no such thing as an average audience. Doesn't exist. I asked the questions in workshops that I do, and I got an answer back recently that I just have to share with you guys. The question that I ask almost every workshop is, describe your audience. And everybody has to write it down on a little piece of paper and then hand it in, and then we'll make a nice thing out of that. And I was somewhere in the UK, I'm not telling you where, I was doing this exercise, and people wrote down the audience. And I got this one back, which was, like, for me, an example how most marketers are looking at it. Our audience are women between 15 and 75. Right. But that's wrong. That's not how you look at it. You have to understand that audience are different types of audiences. The demographics are nice, but first you need to look at actual different types of audiences. Now, I divide them into 4 different types of audiences. If you ever want to read a good book about this, by the way, Jeffrey Ross wrote a book called Audience, and he talks about this kind of stuff as well, and I've added a little bit to it. These are the 4 types of audiences that I use. So let me quickly run you through them. So first there's the seekers. Those are the people that are actually looking for a specific topic. So that's James looking for the slide. Those are people that don't know you yet, probably, but that you can play with. You can give them certain information based on what they're searching for. Mostly their searches could be people on a different platform as well. Then you have the joiners. So the joiners are the people that have seen your content and thought, wow, that's great content. I like that. I want more of that content. So they either sign up for your newsletter or they start following you on Twitter. Those people already know you, so you can treat them in a different way, give them different types of information. Same goes for the amplifiers. The amplifiers are the people that can broaden your message. They can share your message to other people. And don't get me wrong, this is not about, so that's the people who share our Facebook updates. No. Those are the people that think you have a great story or that you have a great product, and I'm willing to tell that to somebody else. Those people are mostly offline. The reason I have a Samsung Gear is not because I am looking online and somebody shared an update about the Samsung Gear. No, it's because a friend of mine actually already owned one and talked about it really passionately. That's why I buy stuff. It's not because I see people share stuff online. So amplifiers, you want to have them talk, and that's what some businesses do as well, right? Who's here has ever been part of a testing group, as in you get a product and you need to test the product? Do you guys do that here in the UK? Probably not. Maybe one in the back. So we do that in the Netherlands, and we give out, or businesses do, they give out test products. So for example, when a new Galaxy tablet comes out, there's a group of about 100 to 150 people that are testing the product. Testing. They're not really testing the product. We know the product's fine. They're using it. And they're showing it to other people. And other people are becoming jealous and started to look at it and thinking, wow, if that person, they can test, it just looks great. And they feel more inclined to actually buy it themselves as well. And actually, this is not my presentation normally, but have you guys ever heard of the Girls Intelligence Agency, the GIA? No? You can buy a slumber party in a box. Now, before you get all excited, you're not going to get the girls. What you're getting with the Girls Intelligence Agency is it's a slumber party in a box, so you can put your products into a box, and then they have a database full of girls in the US, and that they send the box to, and they say, you have a slumber party with your girls, with your friends, and just enjoy yourself. Here's a box where you can, use the stuff that's in it, so makeup, food, all that kind of stuff. Those girls, at that point, are the amplifiers. They're amplifying towards a bigger audience. And if you want to see a movie about this, I suggest you watch The Joneses. That's a brilliant movie that will show you exactly how people behave around other people. But that's a different story. The last group is the buyers. Now, the buyers are the ones that we're all focusing on most of the time. The problem, however, is we focus just on the buyers, we miss out, because the buyers are influenced by all the other ones. Also, what you have to keep in mind is that people can move within different groups. So an amplifier can be a buyer and vice versa, and a joiner can also be a buyer, so people can do different things. The thing is, and that's really important, what you want them to do is different. So what you want to do is create a strategy for each one of them and make sure that each behavior is targeted. So if you want people to share, you write content that shares. If you want people to learn, you write content that people can learn from. Now, the next thing you have to do is understand where people are in the buying process. So, for example, the fantastic consumer funnel, consumer journey picture I have here, people usually are are unaware or get aware on social media about products, and social media beyond as well, so offline. And they start looking for actually research things on search. So you have to understand the difference in content that you have to create for those different channels. Because what I'm seeing still, and I'm sure that about 80% of you guys are guilty as charged, as am I at some times, is that what we do is we create a piece of content and then we think, you know what, we're going to share it on Facebook, and we're going to share it on Google+, and we're going to share it on Twitter. Oh, nobody really clicked on it. You know what, we'll send an email, and we'll send another email. We're just repurposing our content without actually repurposing it because we're just pushing it out again. But if you create different types of content for each different phase, then people will actually resonate with it a lot more. So you have to truly research your audience before you actually start buying. Now, how you do that is to use data. Data is extremely important in all of our lives and in digital especially, but also not in digital. You remember when Obama won the elections in 2008? Everybody was talking about, oh, he won the elections on social media because he got a lot of funding through using social media. Well, that was part of it, but that wasn't the trigger why they actually won. The trick why they won was data. What they did is they actually did the same thing as they used to do 4 years before, and what the other candidates were doing as well. They were knocking on doors. They were going to specific areas in the United States and knocking on people's doors and started to talk with them in person. The difference, however, was that instead of just going to a certain area in which they knew they're either Democrats or Republicans, they researched the area, they researched the people, and the person knocking on the door had an iPad with them, and on that iPad, they had exact information about that person, so they knew, instead of asking, so, we're from the Democratic Party, what is your problem? How can we help? They said, hello, we know you have this problem, and this is what we're going to do about it, which made it much more easy to talk to those people and made people much more comfortable because they trusted it more. They were like, oh, wait a minute, this person at the door actually understands me. And that's similar to what my grandma did. Understanding who you're targeting. So that's the real reason why Obama won that election using social media, because they researched social media. Now the question, of course, is what do you need to research? So first of all, you have to find out what they say, what they need, and what they read. That's easy, you would say, right? Because there's a ton of sources online. You have the sources that are your own data, so you can look into your analytics. You can use social media. You can look at what people are saying online. What is the type of questions that they're asking? You can look at all sorts of websites, industry websites, that have valuable information on what is current in the industry. The trick, however, is not to just research and not to just look at the data, but look beyond the obvious. So when you do go to Twitter and you see an update, don't just look at the update and think, oh, that's nice. Look at, for example, what websites are they visiting? So if you're targeting CMOs, for example, you want to know what websites the CMOs read so you can be on those websites. That's why you either need to advertise or guest post. So look beyond that, not just look at, okay, they're sharing this. Look, what websites are they sharing? And when you go into the LinkedIn groups or Google Plus groups or Facebook groups, do the research and actually look at what is it that people are talking about, what questions are they asking. And I find tools like, for example, Quora, hugely valuable for this. That's question and answers websites. Quora is just one example, but you can basically find anything on there. But the big difference between, for example, Twitter and sites like Quora is that on Twitter, people share what they've already seen. Basically, they're sharing the answer they found. On question and answer sites, they don't have the question, they don't have the answer yet. So this is your opportunity to give them the answer and be in that little relevant area, because that's the question you can answer. You have to analyze the data and then start connecting the dots. And what you need to do is create content for each different part of the cycle. You have to understand that people are in different parts of the cycle, and you need to create content for that. And I'm going to give you an example of what I've done in the Netherlands. And you're going to be surprised by this, because it's about dishwashers. Completely different topic, right? Anybody here sells dishwashers? No, thought so. So the problem with dishwashers, if you sell dishwashers and you want to optimize your website for it, and you want to be found in search, you have a problem. Because if you go on search, there's a couple of ads on the side, and then you have the John Lewis and Curry's code in the UK. And in the Netherlands, it's even worse, because then we have the shopping results as well. So basically, you're screwed, because you're never going to be able to rank well when you want to sell dishwashers. It's going to take you a lot of work. So you need to look beyond the obvious again. So what I did with this business in the Netherlands is I started looking at all sorts of different elements. And I started actually with a tool, you might know it, probably, Google. I started typing into Google buying dishwasher. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Google Suggest actually gives me some really valuable information. So for example, buying dishwasher tips, a guide, buying a dishwasher online. That's valuable because Google Suggest is mostly based on what people are typing into the search engine. So this is actually people giving you suggestions on what they are looking for. So that was the first step, and I was, okay, that's nice. So I gathered a list of potential topics on this, on what I could be working with. And then I went to social media, and I went to Twitter, for example. And I looked up dishwasher and all sorts of different things, and I found some really interesting ones. I'm not going to read all of them, but marriage is saying the dishwasher is empty, stop putting your dirty dishes in the sink every day until I die. I don't really think they have a good marriage, to be honest, but okay. Great, the fucking dishwasher broke. Damn, handle broke. Okay, so things are breaking. That one I like as well. Is there a German word for when you find the office dishwasher needs emptying, but someone is watching, so you can't just walk away? Who's been there? We all have that problem in businesses, right? People let the dishwashers either empty or fill up when they're done. There's all sorts of stuff on social media. So what I did is I looked at that and I gathered a list of, again, topics that people are talking about dishwashers. And then I started to look at the funnel. And I realized, okay, so there's different funnels and there's different phases that people are in. So some people are not aware that they have to buy a dishwasher in the upcoming year, for example. So for example, students who might be moving out, might finish their high school or their college in a few months, they're not thinking about the dishwasher. They're still unaware. They might be getting into the aware phase like a month before or something. And then you have the, yeah, I'm looking at the time. I'm going to be really quick on this. Then you have the other phases where people are researching. So they're actually more aware of it. So what I did is I looked at Twitter and I found that there's all sorts of different stuff that I could talk about and create content around. So that is content that we can create for the dishwasher business, and we can divide them on the different platforms. So we created videos, we created a buying guide, but we also created a guide on how to load a dishwasher. That is for all people in different parts of that funnel. And the one thing we also did is we created a very simple, because I realized at one point that on Twitter I saw people talking about who's going to put the dishes in and who's going to take them out. And I realized I had that problem when I was a kid, but then actually washing the dishes with the hand with my sisters, that we were always fighting about who does what. And my mother back then created the schedule for us. So what I did is I recreated that schedule in Excel. I uploaded that, and people could just fill in how many people are in your business or in your house, and I uploaded it, and people could print out a schedule. It was really easy. Downloaded over 14,000 times. So that's a lot of people who are now using a template from the dishwasher, the business that sells dishwasher in the Netherlands, and you know what logo's on there, and you know what they're going to buy when they're finally are going to buy a dishwasher. They're going to buy that dishwasher from that specific company. This company we all know, they looked at how are people behaving on our platform, what are they doing, how are they using our product. We don't want to sell the product right away, but we want to show how great it is, but we also want to show that we understand people. So this is what they made, and just look at it.
ये मैं ये यूसुफ लौड़े यार से लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट बाबा रोज शाम को हमने वहाँ पतंगे उड़ानी और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ की दुकान से जजरिया चुरा के खानी।
छजरिया
नमस्ते मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली
नमस्ते
बचपन की गली फिर से कूद फांदे छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे
हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
फजल स्वीट्स
हाँ जी। दादाजान, दिल्ली से किसी की कॉल है।
हेलो
यूसुफ अंकल
कौन
जी मैं सुमन बोल रही हूँ दिल्ली से आपके बचपन के दोस्त बलदेव जी की पोती याद है बचपन में हम दोनों झंझरिया चुरा के खाते थे
बचपन की गली फिर से कूद फांदे छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे एक पतंग सा उड़ता था परिंदों की तरह परिंदों की तरह परिंदों की तरह एक दौर था मन मन मोर था एक दौर था मन मन मोर था
पार्टीशन के वक्त हम रातों रात हिंदुस्तान आ गए यूसुफ थी बड़ी याद आती
कागजों की कश्तियों में डूबा रहता था झांकती खिड़कियों में उलझा रहता था वो भी क्या दौर था मन पे न जोर था एक दौर था मन मन मोर था एक दौर था मन मन मोर
भैया चलो चलो
हाँ जी कौन हैप्पी बर्थडे यार
Google could not have made this video without understanding who their audience is, what they're doing, and they've looked at all sorts of different data, how people use it, how to use Google, how they behave, and what their actual problem is. And even though you couldn't understand a word of it because it's in Indian, you still get the message. So the secret ingredient is, and I think they got that from my grandma, is a little bit of love and understanding of your audience. Thank you very much.